A few hours ago, at the time of recording this video, UFC President Dana White announced a huge fight for UFC 300 that definitely put a spring in my step when I woke up to this news. Kayla Harrison has signed to the UFC and she will debut against the former Bantamweight champion Holly Holm at UFC 300 on April 13th. I am super excited for this, and this video took me a little while to get round to because at first I thought, for some of you who may not know, I do a YouTube series over on The Scrap called Devil's Advocate, where I argue for something that I don't even necessarily believe, but I just try and make a case for it. Could it be, an underdog winning a fight? I try and make that case. I have a video about Jared Cannonier coming up and how he's kind of overlooked in the middleweight division despite arguably being the best middleweight in the division. That's the point of the video. I thought, should I do one on Kayla Harrison and the fact that she will be the women's bantamweight champion in the UFC? And then I thought about it for a couple of hours and I went away and I thought, is that really a controversial take? Because after the co-main event we got this past weekend at UFC 297, I'm not sure it is. So let's get into it. If you don't know who Kayla Harrison is, if you have been living under a rock and not taking in any MMA news outside of the UFC over the past 5 years, 6 years even, I will give you a little bit of info on Kayla Harrison. She is 17-1. She normally competes at women's featherweight. We will get to that a little bit later when we talk about this debut against Holly Holm. 17-1, and you might have heard that she is a very, very good grappler. She is also a finisher. If people are going, grappler, she has got 6 KOs and 6 submissions. So she does put people away an awful lot. She is a judo specialist, like a other former UFC bantamweight champion. More on her later also. Kayla is the first back-to-back, I don't know if it's back-to-back or just 2-time, but she won back-to-back gold medals in judo at the Olympics in 2012 and 2016. Her first loss of her pro career came in 2022 in the PFL finals against Larissa Pacheco, who she'd beaten in the past, and to be honest, I think a lot of people chalked that up to the fact that Kayla was kind of checked out of the PFL, at least of the regular season by that point. And Pacheco, of course, herself is now a back-to-back winner as well, which Kayla did in 2019 and 2021, winning that featherweight tournament. Another crucial thing to point out about Kayla Harrison, because despite the fact we have been watching her for like 6 years in the PFL at this point, I believe 5 or 6, give or take. She is only 33 years old. She did transition to MMA straight out of the Olympics, so she is still growing as a martial artist. Her striking, obviously, is still massively, in a state of evolution and improvement every time that we see her. Is it up to a stage where she can compete with some of the better strikers in the bantamweight division? I would say no, but of course her grappling is where she really shines. For people who want to get a kind of overall opinion of her, the way that she fights, but also her characteristics, her persona, I would say that as obvious as it feels, and as much as the UFC are definitely going to probably push this angle, she is a bit like Ronda, not only because of the judo background, the ability to just ragdoll people once she gets a hold of them, but in terms of the persona as well, she is somebody that I think a lot of people are going to like and gravitate to because she is a very headstrong individual. She is not afraid to trash talk opponents and say what she means. She is not afraid to get in people's faces. She is not afraid to be blunt with people. I think that Kayla could be a huge name in the UFC. I really do. And when I say a huge name, and you look at this bantamweight division, that bantamweight title has only ever been held by 4 women, right? You had Ronda Rousey, the biggest star in the history of women's martial arts. Well, mixed martial arts, at least. Probably martial arts as a whole, right? I think so. Unless there's I don't think there's a female boxer. Clarissa Shields is like pretty famous, but she's not Ronda Rousey famous, I don't think. I don't know why I'm questioning this. It's Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey, of course, got beat by Holly Holm. Kayla Harrison's fighting Holly Holm next. Nice little symmetry there. Beaches Hate, of course, beat Holly Holm, and then Amanda Nunes beat, well, I say 4, technically 5 now, because Raquel Pennington won the vacant title this past weekend at UFC 297. But, you know, throughout those eras, you always had Ronda, and then not long after, you had Nunes. You had these huge flagship people for the UFC who really carried. And look, there's fantastic talent in the women's divisions. Valentina Shevchenko is a fighter that I have on that wall behind me. Over that. She's over there. She's over there. So is Holly Holm, for that matter. I love Valentina Shevchenko. Rose Namajunas, I'm a huge fan of her. Weili Zhang, all these champions, right? That have done a great job over the years, but really that bantamweight one is the one that has always had the most recognition, has had the biggest stars, purely I think, you know, because of Ronda and Nunes. And I think Kayla Harrison can fill that void if she wins. If she keeps winning, yes, obviously without the wins, people are going to go, she was never that good in the first place, it was just the PFL caliber of talent wasn't there, all these things. If Kayla Harrison wins and keeps winning in the UFC, I think she could genuinely be, you know, when you think of the biggest stars in the UFC, I think she could be one of those, you know, kind of like 5 or 6 names alongside, I don't know why I'm going to try and name them, but you know who they are. John Jones, your Alex Pereiras, your Volkanovskis maybe, your Israel Adesanyas, Leon Edwards, Islam Makhachev. These kind of flagship people that when you think of this era of the UFC, I think Kayla could become one of those people. And that alone makes this a fantastic get for the UFC. It was literally last week we were talking about Kayla being missing from the PFL versus Bellator Champions event, and how the one fight that people have wanted to see between the PFL and Bellator for such a long time was Kayla Harrison versus Cyborg. And given what Don Davis said when that fight wasn't on there about how Kayla, you know, they were going to look to re-sign her, but they believed that she would still fight with the PFL. She had one fight on her deal, all of this stuff, but it just didn't work out. I was convinced we were going to get her versus Cyborg later this year and that she would probably re-sign with the PFL as a result of that. But this is a fantastic get for the UFC, who, of course, you know, recently signed Michael Venom Page as well. So a couple of stars that Bellator has made and a star that the PFL has made now crossing over into the UFC as a result of the Bellator PFL deal as well, I think. Like, well, that's not really fair of me to say. Kayla was going to leave regardless, I think. Well, I know that I just said that I thought she would stay. She's been wanting to leave for a while. I thought that they would just make her an offer that she couldn't refuse, honestly, with the Cyborg fight and with some other stuff, potentially. But she is in the UFC. So let's talk about Holly Holm and the Bantamweight division, because the co-main event of UFC 297 got a lot of criticism. It was a very, very frustrating fight to watch, I would say, between Raquel Pennington and Mayra Bueno Silva. I don't think the level that it was fought at was particularly high. And I thought that Raquel fought, I want to say smart, but I mean, she did fight smart. She got the win and wasn't... I can't even say that she fought smart because she kept putting herself in dangerous submission attempts for no reason. It was a very, very frustrating fight, and I think that, you know, Kayla Harrison would have been looking at that going, I can probably cut a little bit more extra weight to make bantamweight, because this was the trouble for a long time with Kayla Harrison, I think, was that she was fighting at featherweight. And of course, the UFC did have a women's featherweight division, which Amanda Nunes would, you know, defend that title once a year and, you know, kind of steamroll her way through whoever they found to put in front of her. And there was never really rankings at that weight or top contenders matchups or anything. It was just kind of like, oh, you're UFC caliber and you fight at that weight. Let's put you in this fight with Nunes. Kayla Harrison's going to be dropping down to bantamweight for this fight against Holly Holm, and that is huge. Obviously, I've never seen her make bantamweight before, and she's big. So we'll see how that works out. But I think you know, she's so muscly that it's not going to be easy. But we will see. You know, this is the, if she can, you know, I'm lost for words, because it's like, this is the shot. It's this, or it's make bantamweight in the UFC, or will they make a featherweight division for her like they did with Nunes and Cyborg? I don't know. Because it just didn't really go very well, and fans didn't receive it very well, even though we were happy to see Cyborg in the UFC. Once Nunes beat Cyborg, it was the death of that division from that point on, not to discredit any of Amanda Nunes' fantastic title performances up at featherweight, but you guys know what I mean. Kayla Harrison is going to be fighting Holly Holm, former champion, of course. I think that Holly is actually one of the tougher matchups for Kayla at bantamweight. Her takedown defense is very good, and of course also the striking background means that she's definitely going to have an advantage over Kayla on the feet, and Holly's footwork is very, very good. She's very, very good at keeping her opponents away from her. I know that she did get submitted by Mayra Bueno Silva last time out, but generally, Holly Holm is very, very good at keeping that range. Will she be able to do it against somebody like Kayla Harrison? I don't know, because Kayla will just walk forward into that range. Hopefully not in the same way that Ronda Rousey did, but Kayla will look to just grab a hold of her. She isn't going to try and close distance and box with her, you know. She will just grab a hold of Holly Holm and win the fight that way. So I would still pick Kayla Harrison to win that fight, but I do honestly think Holly is one of the tougher matchups because of her takedown defense, because of her ability to control the range. If you ask me right now, does Kayla Harrison beat Raquel Pennington? I would say yes. And you know what? I actually rate Raquel Pennington. I don't want to make this sound like I'm ragging on Raquel Pennington. I just really, really rate Kayla Harrison. But after that performance against Mayra Bueno Silva, I'm more confident that Kayla Harrison will get the job done, because you can't take risks like that with Kayla, because you will at the very least lose the round because you are not getting back up to your feet, or you will potentially get submitted and ground and pounded out. And I would say Raquel Pennington definitely has the advantage on the feet, and her takedown defense is pretty good, but I don't know. I just don't see it. So I am super, super excited for this fight. It is now one of the fights I'm most excited about on this card, because, again, I'm not like, let's go, Kayla Harrison versus Holly Holm, what an incredible fight. The reason I'm so excited for this is because because of the potential that I spoke about with Kayla Harrison, the potential to become this new leading name in the women's bantamweight division, this new leading champion for the UFC, and I think that she can do it. If she beats Holly Holm, she's probably going straight in for a title shot, be it Raquel Pennington, be it Juliana Pena. I know that obviously they're supposed to fight. Pena wants to fight in the summer, so you could maybe see Kayla Harrison fighting Holly in April and then fighting for the title at the end of the year, maybe, or maybe she has one more in there or something like that. I don't know, we'll see. But I am very, very excited about this news. Drop a comment below if you're excited for Kayla Harrison to debut. How far do you think she can go? Will she get to the UFC belt? How many fights will it take her? Just give me your thoughts. I'm curious to know what other people think, because I know that I'm a big fan of Kayla Harrison, but I know that some people are not as big fans of Kayla Harrison. But I think that's what makes this very exciting and a great move for the UFC. So very, very interesting. Also, when this video comes out, it will be the PFL Bellator press conference later on today. So Dana knows what he's doing. I'll catch you on the next video. Thank you for checking this one out, and yeah, peace.